Hi folks, I'm Craig Taylor, and as always a huge thank you for joining me here on my YouTube channel, The Bushcraft Padawan. Regular viewers and subscribers will know that I'm undertaking a year-long tree and plant identification masterclass with Kirtley from Frontier Bushcraft, with the primary aim of improving significantly my tree and plant identification, with a focus on those that I can use for outdoor living, for bushcraft and things like that. We have just finished, or I have just finished module 5. Well, I'm almost halfway through the masterclass. It's almost halfway through the year. It's actually the middle of June as I'm recording this. And I wanted to just reflect upon what's happened during module 5 and how I've dealt with that and what I've done. If you think back to my module 4 video, I linked to it up here. Paul spent the majority of that module talking about quite high level genera and families that plants and trees fell into. We worked halfway through the alphabet, and at the end of that module we looked at some deciduous tree leaves in the summer. We've repeated that for this module 5, except we've looked at the latter half of the alphabet, and then we've looked at some deciduous tree leaves in the summer, in the spring and the summer. So we've finished off this A to Z, if you like, of plant and tree species and genera. And I would say that it's, I've kind of dealt with it the same way that I dealt with the previous module. I found it a real struggle to lean forward and stay engaged with this very high level order thinking, these species and these families and genera. I just found it really hard to stick with it. And Paul, to his credit, kind of says that several times during the module and the preceding module. I know it's important, don't get me wrong. Like I said in the last video, I'm not doubting its validity. I'm not doubting that it will come in useful, and it's already starting to do so. Personally, I just find it hard going, and I much prefer to what I would call laser focus in on a particular plant or a particular tree or species and explore the detail of that. As I've said, I have zero doubt that this higher level thinking and higher level identification will definitely come in useful. I just find it hard going, that's all. So let's have a look at some of the other things that we've covered. We've looked at terminology a little bit more today, a little bit more this module, and that's really starting to come in useful. At the beginning of the masterclass, Paul used several terms and I was like, whoa, I hope there's going to be an explanation as to what these mean. And there are, as it unfolds, as the modules unfold, Paul's explaining those. It was only a few minutes ago, literally a few minutes ago from when I'm recording this video, that I dropped my kids off at school and I was walking out past my little girl's classroom and I looked down and there was a plant growing. Don't know what it was, but I looked at it and thought, oh yeah, that's got a basal leaf structure. What? Hey, what? In my head I was using this term basal leaf structure. The leaves were growing from the base of the plant rather than from higher up out of a stalk of the plant or a stem of the plant. So it's, that in itself doesn't tell me what that plant was. That in itself doesn't tell me if that plant is useful to me when I'm outdoors, but it's a part of the ingredients that altogether is going to help me be able to improve my identification as we go in. So it's just really interesting that I'm kind of exposing myself to these terms and these terminologies and these scientific terms, these botanical terms, and it's obviously sinking in, because today I just looked at that plant and that was what came into my mind. I noticed the leaf structure and the word basal sprung to mind. So it's sinking in somewhere, Paul. It's going in. It's going in. Something else that happened this month that was interesting that I shared with the Facebook group. I've been looking for silver birch in my area since we started this particular masterclass, so back in February time, and I've never found any. There's none that I'm aware of in this park that I'm in. There's none that I'm aware of the areas that I walk. And then at the beginning of this month, I was driving my kids to school and I stopped at a road junction. I just looked up and I thought, oh, I wonder what that tree is. And as I got a little, because it was in bloom, there was greenery on the trees, there were leaves on the trees which I'd not seen before. And as I got closer to that particular tree, I looked and I thought, they look like silver birch leaves. And then I looked at the tree more. Sorry, there's a dog just invaded. It's just knocked the tripod there, sniffing around. As I looked at the bark, I thought, that's silver birch. But what was interesting was I'd been looking for silver birch trees at a distance, trying to find that very light, very papery, very delicate tissue-like bark on there. And this was a much older tree, and it was much more ragged, and the bark was much more blackened. It was only when you looked higher up that you started to see that whitish silver aspect that's familiar with a silver birch. So it was just very, very interesting to see that, you know, from a learning point, that I was looking for its recognition feature being that very light silvery paper bark. And actually I'd been driving past this tree twice a day, every single day since this module, every single school day since this module started, and I just never spotted it. So I thought there was an interesting learning point there about making assumptions as to what condition identification features may or may not be in. The bark is always present, of course, but the condition of that bark and the maturity of that bark will either make it spring out to me or it will make it less obvious to me. So there's an interesting learning point there. The dog's just knocked my notes on the floor, so I'm just going to grab them. There we go. The perils of recording a video in a local dog walking area, I suppose. What else have we looked at? It's been a really good, I personally feel it's been a really good month for me personally, identifying things. Number of things that I've had identified this month. Cedar of Lebanon. I identified that when I took the kids out to Stammer Park, which is near Brighton. I took my little girl out, or my little boy out, should I say. It's my girl's birthday this coming weekend. I took my little boy out to an adventure park near here, and we went boating and we spotted some yellow water iris. And then generally on my travels, I've identified foxglove when I was out doing an overnighter with my young boy recently. Mallow on some wasteland very close to me. Knotweed, Japanese knotweed, is absolutely rife in an area of wooded wasteland, and a small wooded area close to me, and also some rowan in the pretty much in the same sort of park area that I'm in now. I identified some rowan earlier on this month. So it's kind of been a month, I won't say of highs and lows, because lows sounds like it's not working, but it's been a month of where I've struggled at times to stick with it. And then the next moment I'm positively identifying a tree. I'm having that confirmed with my colleagues in the Facebook group that we're all part of. And of course I'm on that high again. So I think it's been a mixed month. Paul, from what I'm understanding, will kind of go back to focusing on particular plants and trees, and and almost that laser focus that I call it. So maybe I'll get my mojo back. It's not a criticism. I'm not criticising the last two modules. I absolutely understand the value of taking that higher order perspective on looking at plants and species, and it is already starting to sink in with me. I just find it harder going than the rest. And you know what Paul has said, and I made a note of this, he keeps encouraging people to come back into it, to revisiting old videos. I started to do that at the beginning of the year. If you remember, I'd finish a module, and while I was waiting for the next one to go live, I'd revisit the previous one. I'm not getting a chance to do that at the moment. They're taking longer to get through than they had been previously, so I'm not getting that chance. But what I am absolutely convinced of is that when this year is over, when this masterclass phase is over, I will be rejoining, or I will be reviewing those January videos, January of next year, and it will become a continual cycle, hopefully that never ends, and every year I will build upon what I've picked up the previous year. So that is my review of Module 5 of the Tree and Plant Identification Masterclass with Paul Kirtley from Frontier Bushcraft. If you like the video, if you're enjoying me, my woes and my highs and my struggles, please do give it a like. If you think that there's somebody in your network that would find this interesting, please do share it with them. And as always, if you've liked this video, if you're enjoying the other videos that I'm putting out there and you're not yet a subscriber, please do click that subscriber button. It's down here in the corner, and become a subscriber, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, folks.